The following program is being brought to you on the Voice America Business Channel. For more information about our network and to check our additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericabusiness.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the following program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America Talk Radio Network, its staff, and management.
Forbes magazine recently reported that there were 1,210 billionaires in the U.S. collectively. They were worth over $4.5 trillion. America continues to be the world's largest economy and boasts the lion's share of this ultra-rich class of people. In spite of this fact, an estimated 46.2 million people in America are living in poverty today. Where are we going wrong, and what can we do about it? Welcome to Wealth Solutions for the 99% with your host, Paul LaJoy. Let us show you some of the strategies that will set you on the path to building personal wealth. These are proven strategies that are working for others and can work for you too. Now, here is your host, Paul LaJoy.
Hello, welcome to the show, Wealth Solutions for the 99%. I'm really excited about the show, resuming the show. Some of you who know the show know that we started it in March this year and we ran till the end of May. And then, of course, we're just resuming our full swing. The first batch was just basically a pilot. And now today, we've started the full program. We're going to run for 6 months and we want you to join us on this exciting journey. Every week, we're going to have some key players in the industry, in the real estate industry. We're going to primarily concentrate on real estate, at least for the time being, because real estate is pretty hot around the country. So we want you to bring your family and you listen on Saturday. We decided to move the show to Saturday because that's when people relax and people can listen, they can call in. And of course, everybody lives in their home, so it's the best time to call and talk about real estate. You have a question, do not hesitate. Do not hesitate to call in and let's talk about, the issues that you may have or the questions that you may have. Wealth Solutions for the 99%. So we can help you to create wealth. So like I said, every week we're going to have a key player in the industry who will come and share with us, the insights into creating wealth using real estate. Today, I have a great lineup, okay? So I have the number one publisher for the number one real estate magazine around the country, Mr. Andrew Wade. Like me, Mr. Andrew Wade is an immigrant. No, he was born in New Zealand and he moved to America. And he's been in America for a long time. So he'll be sharing with us today the beauty of living in America and the beauty of investing. So in a few minutes, I'm going to bring him to the show. But I don't know about you in your neighborhood, what's happening? Real estate is in the news again. It's in the news again, and everybody's talking about it. Okay, I'm sure you're talking about it too. Some people, especially buyers, have become so frustrated, about, the scarcity of real estate. So they want to buy, and they have multiple offers. For example, I have a property here, which is a duet in the Bay Area in Antioch. Okay, not even close to San Francisco, but it's in Antioch. About 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 2008, 2009, even 2010, places like Antioch were really dumps for real estate. Nobody wanted to buy real estate in Antioch. Properties that used to be $600,000, they plummeted to less than $200,000 in value. But today, the same properties are going up in value again. You have investors scooping up properties, and you have people writing you letters, pleading for you to sell them a home. Wow, what's happening? So we got Mr. Andrew, who's been through the whole thing, for a long time, much longer than myself. I've only been here for 12 years. So Andrew has seen it all. And so he's going to share with us not only what's happening in the Bay Area, but what's happening around the country. So I'm excited about this show. If you want to learn more and you want to speak to us today, you can call 1-866-472-5790. 1-866-472-5790. I look forward to chatting with you. But before go on, hey, Andrew, are you on the line?
Paul, yes, I am, and thank you so much for the invitation. Good morning, everybody.
Oh, wow. Andrew, I look forward to this conversation with you today. And I think our listeners are going to have a good time, just listening to the wealth of information that you have to share with me on the show. Yes?
Well, absolutely. But, Paul, before we begin, one of the things that is so refreshing about you is your energy, your openness, and your ability and willingness to challenge, received wisdom and concepts that bedevil people the world over. I can't do it. I have come with, some sort of objection to the mainstream or whatever. You challenge that so well, and it fits perfectly in this world of real estate assumptions and so forth. Well, I can't do it because I don't have money. I don't come from the right family. I didn't go to the right school. Whatever. None of those things apply in real estate. And you can obviously, expand that into social things if you're prepared to think a little more broadly. So, congratulations, Paul. I admire your story, and I'm very happy to be able to talk about it in our magazine and the supplement that we're doing in the November issue for you and your company.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Andrew. And I have the magazine here. Basically, for people who don't know, like I said, Andrew is a publisher of the Personal Real Estate Investor magazine. If you don't know this magazine, if you have never heard about it, I think you should go online and look for it and then subscribe to the magazine. It's a great magazine, a wealth of information, some of which Andrew is going to be sharing with us today. But I appreciate that. Mm-hmm.
Paul, you can go down to your local Barnes & Noble. It's in the financial section, Personal Real Estate Investor magazine, or you can go online at www.personalrealestateinvestormag.com.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And Andrew, you did a great story on me, in the current version or the current edition of the magazine. And I ordered like 30 copies. Bill was kind enough to send me 30 copies, and just amazing, amazing stuff, right?
Thank you. Well, you've got an amazing story. It's a very salutary lesson for a lot of Americans.
All right, good. So you and I actually are both immigrants, and I don't know about you, but I've been here for 12 years. How long have you been in America?
I've been here 40 years, and went to school here and did a whole bunch of other things. But America is a fabulous country, and still stands apart from the rest of the world, despite the current mood of trying to lower all of our expectations. There is no other country in the world like this country. We have no feudal history, so we unlike Europe, England, in many part of the colonies in colonial Africa that you're from, we always were in an environment where there was a king or a tribal chief or somebody that allegedly knew better than us and therefore told us to sit down, shut up, and follow the rules. That doesn't happen or didn't used to happen in America. So we have a very magic environment here. We're in danger of losing it, but I don't think we will let this last too much longer. But this is a magic country. Don't tell people, because more people will want to live here.
Okay, that's good. So, you left New Zealand 40 years ago. What attracted you to America? I know that you've lived here for 40 years, and you just talked about the reasons why you liked it. But what attracted you to America in the first place?
Well, a series of things, but it was the 1964 and a half Mustang convertible. I saw that when I was about 15, 16 years old, and I went, wow, that's what sort of country can produce a car like that? And I came up here on an exchange program, and for about a year I saved, and I had a California or bust a sign on my wall, a thermometer, as I saved up money to come up here on this American exchange program. I came here. I worked out, I traveled the country, worked out what was going on, and went, I got to live here. And then
Wow.
I spent, the following years of my college and so forth, and found a way that made me desirable as an immigrant to the United States, and through a whole series of interesting circumstances, I ended up here, and I've lived here since the early 70s.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. So now you travel the world. You just came back from Europe, right?
Right. I was in Switzerland, Germany, and Holland.
So in spite of all the beauty of Europe and all those things, America is still the most attractive country in your
Well, you know
opinion.
what's so amazing about it is that all of the things that we see in America, the brands and the style and so forth, the European kids are all wearing NFL, NHL, and basketball shirts, right?
Yes,
and
right.
they all, the American brands are all over Europe. The French were very concerned about cultural imperialism as they talked about it. America won. I mean, the standard, the vibrance, the dynamics of American business have just, forget cultural imperialism. People are attracted to dynamic, live, interesting, open environments, and American brands in many cases represent that in Europe.
That's good because as you know, I was born in Africa and I went to school in England, and then of course I lived in Taiwan where I worked prior to coming to America. And I tell you, people are crazy about America. People are crazy about America, and I don't understand Americans, and that's why I wrote that book. It's impossible to report America, because America, as an American, you can go anywhere in the world and people respect you. Don't worry about what the media say and all that kind of stuff, but people respect Americans. They love America, of course, for the things that America is, and that's just amazing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, there you go. And right now we're in a very, very interesting condition as a country that makes us an incredibly good buy for anybody in the world. We are watching the window dressing in Asia, and particularly China, begin to fall apart. There was just some news today about the Australian economy and the new Prime Minister who threw out the last Prime Minister saying we've got to get our act together because we've made our entire economy dependent on selling commodities, minerals, etc. to China. That is drying up. We've forgotten about India, we've forgotten about Indonesia, and all of our other great things we make here. And, what were very inflated dollar values against the American dollar, Australian dollar against the American dollar, are slipping rapidly, once again showing us that anybody that invested in the U.S. out of Australia over the last 5 years in real estate is, making not only the natural appreciation in the U.S., but also, benefiting from an exchange rate change to the benefit of the American dollar versus the Australian dollar. And it's going to happen all over the world. I mean, the fascinating thing that I saw in Europe the last couple of weeks was there's a lot of building, but it's very interesting building. It's all either government-centric or as a result of government-centric activity. In Basel, for example, all of the major pharmaceutical companies, they have huge campuses which are under renovation and reconstruction, et cetera, because they're all making money on these government health programs. And, obviously that is a trickle-down effect of, government dollars being spent on health programs and pharmaceuticals and so forth. Then in Strasbourg, massive building projects there all around the European Parliament and the European community. The rest of Germany or the rest of France and Germany looks pretty quiet in terms of construction and activity. But all of these government-centric programs are spending money like crazy to try and keep people employed.
That's good. We're going to talk more about real estate when we come back. We're going to take a quick break, but we just wanted to give you, our listeners, a snapshot of why Andrew and myself are very passionate about America and very passionate about you, the listener, taking advantage of what America has to offer. We're going to take a quick break right now. We'll come back and we'll talk more about real estate.
Be sure to friend us on Facebook. You can do it right now. Visit Facebook.com/Voice America or search for us at keyword Voice America.
Dialogue is the single most powerful leadership tool we have to make a difference in the world. Leading Conversations with host Cheryl Esposito creates a place for that dialogue. Tune into the Voice America Business Channel every Friday as Cheryl hosts new conversations among leaders from around the world in business, government, art, economics, and social change. We'll explore big ideas and everyday actions and learn how their own leadership has led them to discover a newfound sense of possibility in the world. Leading Conversations with Cheryl Esposito, bringing big thinkers together in conversations that make a difference, right here on the Voice America Business Channel every Friday morning at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Costa, host of the Costa Report every Tuesday at 6 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. This week, my guest is outspoken former congressman and one of our country's most prominent gay public figures, Mr. Barney Frank. He'll be with us to talk about the Supreme Court's ruling on DOMA and how the Obama presidency is doing in its second term. Don't miss Barney Frank this Tuesday at 6 a.m. and again at 6 p.m. on the Voice America Business Channel.
What's going on behind the scenes with your favorite Voice America show or host? For the latest news, visit the iRadio blog at iradioblog.com.
You are tuned in to Wealth Solutions for the 99% with Paul LaJoy. We'd love to hear from you on today's program. Please call in to 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. Or email us at lajoysolutions@gmail.com. Now, back to Wealth Solutions for the 99%.
Oh, welcome back to Wealth Solutions for the 99%. Well, I'm talking with my good friend here, Mr. Andrew Waite, the publisher of Personal Real Estate Investor magazine. And we just talked about, how attractive the United States is compared to other countries. And Mr. Andrew Mr. Waite came from New Zealand initially, and then, of course, he's been in America for 40 years, as he said. But if you have a question, you have a real estate question, maybe you're an investor, you are a homeowner, or you have a general real estate question, okay, the number to call is 866-472-5790. 866-472-5790. Hey, Andrew, before we went on the break, we talked about how attractive America is. You were talking about Europe and what's happening over there. In America right now, we see houses being built again. In 2008, 2009, nobody was building. Everybody was selling, and nobody was buying. So we see it reverse right now. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because one of the things that I watch, when I'm flying into a city like Dallas or Atlanta or Baltimore or Philadelphia or any of the cities I've been in, I was just in Minnesota, or flew into Minnesota, or through Minneapolis. As you fly in, you can see all of the pads that have been cut and gone idle, or now are being reactivated, that, the entitlements were completed, and now the builders have got money and they're back building, 1, 2, 100, whatever, based on demand. And the first cities that started to see this were, of course, the southwestern and the southern cities like Phoenix, like Dallas, like Atlanta. And now I'm flying into Minneapolis and Baltimore recently. Both of those cities, you can see entitlement areas and pads being reactivated as they start to build again. So clearly, the demand is there to give builders the confidence that they need to start building. And of course, the data is showing up that the stock prices of these public companies that if they are the builders are improving dramatically. Now, it's critical from a couple of points of view. Not so much the real estate implications, although that's very important also in terms of supply and demand. But when a house is built, there is a tremendous demand for labor and for materials, which have a much greater ripple in the economy than just somebody buying a resale house. Mm-hmm. So the real estate industry has a huge effect on the health of the economy, and unfortunately, there's a bit of denial going on Wall Street over this. But when money flows and loans are available, and they're employed wisely, they have much greater effect on the economy than just somebody sells a house.
So Andrew, you sound so passionate about real estate. So tell me, how long have you been investing in real estate?
About 25, 30 years.
Oh, wow. So you are a lawyer by profession, or at least you are trained in that. I was trained in radio, film, and television production, and here am I today doing real estate. What attracted you to real estate in the first place?
Well, long way round. I was in the technology business, initially a lawyer, then in the technology business. And one of the things that was clear to me is that real estate had treated me very well. So I therefore, thought that I should be buying more real estate. I did a fix and flip in the 90s and went, this is relatively easy. I thought I was a genius because I bought low and the house went up. Well, as it turned out, it had a lot to do with the economy at the time. So, I continued to do this. I watched a lull and then a resurgence of the market, and I thought I was, inherently brilliant because everything I touched turned to gold until the recession. And then, the lesson in that was that it was all very well to be able to do that and ride an economy, but the really smart ones among us learned what the fundamentals were and applied the fundamentals. And in any economy, if they apply fundamentals, they can win. And what was fascinating was many of these gurus who, were teaching people about real estate investment and so forth, they were great when the market was going up, but their ideas did not work when the market went stagnant or into a downturn. And a lot of these, really brilliant guys or held themselves out as such were useless when there was any sort of resistance or hardship in the market. Their principles just did not work because they were selling a dream. They weren't selling fundamentals and wise practice.
Well, I know that's what happened to me myself in 2004. I read all these books, and I saw people coming from Florida and other parts of America and selling to Californians, and we fell for that, and guess what happened? So
Absolutely.
and those people, they disappeared. They disappeared when the economy went down. That's amazing. But now, so 25 years in real estate, and then you decide to start a magazine, this magazine that we're talking about today, and so when did you start the magazine, and who are your readers?
Well, this is not my first magazine. This is the ninth title that I've been involved in. The previous magazine that we had published with my partners out of New York was a magazine called Technology Investor. And it was a magazine that was focused at the technology or NASDAQ stock because nobody was talking about what was behind these companies in terms of their technology, how it fit, whether it was dependent on something else, where it was in terms of life cycle, generational implications, blah, blah, blah. And in previous magazines, we'd published a lot about technology as computer magazines. And that's basically a free fire zone. You can be critical, you can be thoughtful, you can be, constructive, you can be very open, and everybody accepts that. We went into the technology business and the technology stock business and started talking the same way about it. And we created a furor on Wall Street because they didn't want people to be smart. So we went to these major investment banking companies and said, look, we've got this very successful magazine. We've got 350,000 paid subscribers who have got 500,000 or more of investable assets. Don't you want to talk to them? And they basically said to us, we don't want or need smart customers. We want people that will just, give us money to put in their IRAs and hopefully we'll make a couple of bucks for them. But don't give us smart customers because they're going to start asking us lots of difficult questions that we really don't have easy answers for. So we were blown away. And, Unfortunately, 9/11 occurred, and we basically got rid of the magazine and all of that sort of stuff. I noticed simultaneously that even though my stock portfolio went to zero, or 10% of what it was previously worth, with the dot-com crash and the 9/11, I noticed that nothing happened to my real estate, and I went, "That's very interesting."
Okay.
The tenants were still paying rent, market rent. The market rent was, increasing based on demand, a little bit, or inflation a little bit, et cetera, et cetera. I went, "That's weird. What don't I know about real estate?" So I went looking for the magazine that would help an individual investor look at the real estate or real estate as an investment asset class, and I couldn't find anything. And I went, "That's weird. Why is that?" So we spent 6 months analyzing the market, trying to work out why somebody hadn't started a national magazine for individual versus commercial or national real estate brands or companies, but for individual investors. And we worked out what all the issues were, and then built a magazine to solve that problem. And there's a lot of misinformation about real estate investors, but here's the reality. Today, there are 38 million households in the rental pool. Of that 38 million rental households, nearly 60% of them are housed in homes or multifamily apartments owned by individual Americans, not institutional. So 21 million, 22 million of those 38 million households are housed by average Americans. The other 17 million are housed by institutions like Equity Residential, Blackstone, Greystone, et cetera, these large multifamily rental companies. But 21 million, 22 million of them are owned or housed by average Americans. That's a $2.4 to $2.5 trillion asset base that nobody is managing.
And is that why you decided
managing it as an asset class?
So is that why you decided to start the magazine to cater to these individuals who are buying these homes and housing other individuals? Is that correct?
Absolutely.
All right, that's interesting. Okay, so let's switch a little bit. We're going to take a break, but let's switch a bit. You just came back from Europe, as you mentioned before, and we know that I just read recently that 68 countries are investing heavily in the U.S. economy. They're buying real estate. The Canadians, the Chinese, the Mexicans, the Brits, and the Indians make up the top 5%. Why is there so much interest in U.S. Real estate, and how do you compare the U.S. real estate market to other markets?
Well, there's two or three things. First of all, we can build houses in this country on a production basis that's not replicated anywhere else in the world. That means we get massive economy of scale, and we can build houses relatively inexpensively. So if you look at a production house in the Southwest in a relatively, let's say, a red state, what you find is, and a right-to-work state, what you find is you can build a house for about $100 a square foot on top of the existing land. So, when you include land costs, because of these, southwestern or red states in the South, there is not a lot of government-owned land, so there's a lot of constraint on what's available. So therefore, land is a little cheaper, construction is a little cheaper, and that's the reality. When you consider the price of building a house in, let's say, Dallas, Texas, and Plano, one of the suburbs outside of Texas, and you get a 2,500 square foot home with really good quality fittings and finishes, and then you take that and compare what it would cost to build that same house in, let's say, Auckland, New Zealand, or Sydney, Australia, or Brisbane, Australia, or God forbid, the UK, you find that same house is over $1 million. And you built that house in Texas for less than $300,000.
Wow.
Phoenix, Arizona is, at the end of a direct flight from London. There are thousands of Brits living in Phoenix, Arizona, in homes they could never hope to afford, and I'm talking about equivalents in terms of space and quality and luxury they could never hope to afford in the UK.
Oh, wow. So now I see why people are very intrigued by the U.S. Real estate market. And so a lot of these people are buying luxury homes, okay? And some of them, I mean, I was reading that the Chinese, most especially, buying luxury homes. The Canadians and the Mexicans are buying like low-income properties or low median income, median price properties. What do you see over there? You just mentioned that the Brits are buying in Phoenix, Arizona, was hot. What are they buying? What are they buying compared to the Chinese?
I don't wish to mislead people. What I was trying to do there is an equivalence of the cost of building in other countries versus what's happening here. So when we reverse it and we say, okay, so why is the American market attractive to foreigners or aliens, and why it should also be really attractive to Americans, is the fact that over the last 7 years, we corrected a bubble, and we overcorrected, and of course much of the property fell below what its real worth was, so it was very undervalued as an asset. Needless to say, a lot of individual investors recognized that and jumped into that. But also some of the very major Wall Street funds decided they were going to start distressed residential real estate asset funds, and they have also done that. Now, the interesting thing is the market for homes in the sub $200,000 level, which of course are homes that you can make positive cash flow on just with normal financial analytics and measurements. Those homes have dried up very quickly because everybody's been after those homes because they know they can turn them into affordable housing for moderate income people, and that class of house is very hard to find unless you go out, as you were telling with your Antioch story, into relatively remote neighborhoods. And one of the things that we ran into in the last round of real estate frenzy was that a lot of those homes were in very remote locations, and people were, their expectations for housing exceeded what their real budgets were, and they went out and they bought in remote locations. The moment there was any budget stress, particularly affecting gasoline and commuting, those homes became very much less desirable because people couldn't afford them, even though they were moderately priced homes. From a construction point of view, their pricing for sales point of view was probably pretty hyped up, but that was the nature of the business. Now what you find is this huge demand for homes, and there's a total lack of inventory in reasonable commute distances from economic hubs. You can still find lots and lots of inexpensive homes in remote locations, but they are financially undesirable for a middle class or moderate income budget, because you can't finance commuting. It just doesn't work.
That's amazing. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about where the hottest markets are in the United States. Andrew travels a lot, extensively across the country, so we're going to talk about that. But if you want to call, the number to call is 866-472-5790. Take a quick break.
Think you've seen everything there is to see in online television? Let us surprise you. Visit voiceamerica.tv today for sports, health, business, and more on demand 24/7.
Do you need directions to solid financial future? If so, the Money Answers Show with Jordan Goodman will provide you with a roadmap to making smart money decisions in every area of your personal finances. Join Jordan every Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 3 p.m. Eastern for the Money Answers Show on the Voice America Business Channel. Learn how and where to get the best deals on mortgages, cars, and insurance. Find out the best ways to save for college and retirement, get out of debt, improve your credit rating, and save on your taxes. The Money Answers Show with Jordan Goodman will provide you with great tips on investment opportunities in real estate, stocks, annuities, and other investment vehicles. That's the Money Answers Show with Jordan Goodman on the Voice America Business Channel every Monday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time.
Are you an entrepreneur that wants to achieve more? Not just in it for profit, but to do work you find meaningful, that adds more value to more people in more ways? Listen for Be More, Achieve More, Inspiration for the Entrepreneurial Mind. With host Chris Cooper, you'll hear from successful achievers from around the world with the passion and experience to offer invaluable guidance. These people are making a difference and will help give you the motivation and insight to achieve more. Be More, Achieve More can be heard live Fridays at 8 a.m. U.S. Pacific Time on the Voice America Business Channel.
We're making it easier to listen to the Voice America Talk Radio Network live wherever you go on iPhone, BlackBerry, or Android. Download it from the Apple iTunes App Store, BlackBerry App World, or Android Market.
You are tuned in to Wealth Solutions for the 99% with Paul LaJoy. We'd love to hear from you on today's program. Please call in to 1-888-346-9141. That's 1-888-346-9141. Or email us at lajoysolutions@gmail.com. Now, back to Wealth Solutions for the 99%.
Welcome back. I'm with my good friend, Mr. Andrew Waite, and we've been talking about, real estate. And Mr. Andrew Waite travels around the country extensively. And I don't know about you, but I'm gaining a lot of wisdom from, this conversation we're having this morning and afternoon if you're on the Eastern time. So, Andrew, like I said, you've been traveling extensively, with your magazine and stuff. So I wanted to find out from you, what are the hottest markets right now? What are people investing in most these days, and what kinds of returns are they seeing?
Well, the question you're asking also is a bit of a trap, because you can say, Texas is a hot market, but I will show you depressed areas in Texas that aren't moving at all. The issue is, where is demand? And demand is just purely an economic issue. If there are jobs, there are people that need homes, need rentals, need housing, and the big thing to look is, where are jobs being created? Because without jobs, you don't have economic activity. With flat job growth, you have flat economic activity, little change. With negative job growth, you've got immigration out into other markets where jobs are, or you've got massive government dependence. And the one thing that is really kind of salutary at the moment is that those states with right-to-work rules are attracting businesses away from states where they have closed shop rules. It's a sort of a salutary message to the world when Michigan, one of the bedrocks of unionism, has just passed right to work because they fear losing more companies to the states of Georgia, of Texas, of Arizona, etc., because there are more attractive economic environments that make it easier to operate a business. So it's a very pragmatic issue of job creation. If you've got jobs, job growth, new job creation, you've got businesses being attracted, you've got then a demand for workers, and then in turn a demand for the housing of those workers. So, the first question is not what are the hot markets for real estate. The question of what are the hot markets for job creation, and then following those, and then analyzing the cities and the neighborhoods, because as we were talking earlier, Paul, about the Antioch situation. Now there are real exceptions to some of these generalized statements, but you look at an economic center and you look at the housing that's proximate to that economic center. Then you look at housing. When you look at a market and you look at the inventory of available housing, it's all very well to say there's 1,000 houses available, but you need to also analyze where those houses are in the market related to that economic center, and then what the price points of those houses are. So by the time you say, so what's a hot market, one house may be hot in a given neighborhood and get those 5 or 10 offers, whereas another house, 10 miles away at a higher price point may, struggle with days on market to get an offer of any sort, or even get people going through it and looking at it as a prospect. So real estate is not a market you can generalize. It's not, these are castles, they're not commodities. And you can't, apply Wall Street metrics of, traded assets, price points at the end of a trading day to real estate, because it doesn't work like that.
But Andrew, wouldn't you say, though, that basically because there were no houses being built, during the Depression time or the recession period, and then the population continues to grow because
absolutely.
It's because a law of demand and supply. People want to buy, and of course, what's happening, the interest rates, plummeted. People want to buy right now, and they know that in 2014 the interest rates are going to go up. So I mean, there's that heightened demand. So, for example, in Manteca.
Yes.
I have a house over there in Manteca that I bought from Fannie Mae for $66,000, and I put on the market just a few weeks ago, and guess what? I had many offers on this property. Manteca is not close to the Bay Area at all, and this is a small house that nobody will buy in 2008, 2009, even 2010, and now all of a sudden everybody wants to buy. Why is that so? It's not necessarily because of jobs.
The Bay Area is an exception. It's like New York City or, central Chicago or central Dallas. The Bay Area is a very odd, city, because you've got the bay right in the middle of it. You've got, 4 bridges, limited ingress and egress. It's always going to be in demand because it's such a wonderful, area to live in. So I can understand why, affordable housing anywhere, even, possibly close to the Bay Area, is going to be attractive because people have to live somewhere. And, obviously there is, employment in the East Bay that's significant. And what, you said something to me which was very interesting, Paul, and it echoes. You can buy properties in the Bay Area or within a reasonable distance of the Bay Area that are better performing than telling a Californian to go buy in Memphis, Tennessee, which is, a very different market and, remote and not quite as simple to understand as, say, the Bay Area for somebody living in it. So, I mean, there's just very interesting things that, people have to understand about real estate. You can't make blanket statements with real estate. The other thing, though, and now I'm talking out of 3 sides of my mouth, the other thing which is very interesting and can be made as a generalization is this issue of population. So here's what we've watched in terms of numbers. If you look at new houses being built, there are 3 stages to measuring the total inventory of new houses. The number of permits pulled by a company or, collectively for new houses to be built over the next 12 months. That number, let's say it's 100, is the gross number. What you will find is there's probably 92 to 95% of those permits begun, where the ground is broken, financing is available, and the contractor begins to build the house. Then of that number, probably 80% will be sold within that 12-month period. So, those are the 3 numbers, the permits, the beginning construction, and the completed and sale construction, right? We watched the numbers going into 2007, 2008, and those numbers were close or exceeded 1 million thereabouts. Right. By 2009, 2010, those numbers had dropped to 400,000 now, or thereabouts. Now, one thing that is a constant in the United States is about 350,000 dwelling units, and these are, units that can accommodate a household, get lifed out or demolished because they're no longer practical, they're in the wrong place, they're not cost-effective to keep alive, and they get knocked over. So if we were at 400,000 at the bottom of the recession, and we were still knocking down, 300 to 350,000 houses a year, we were not creating very much new inventory. Okay? So now we've come back, and we're probably building 650 to 700,000 houses a year, or building at that rate. Here's the other reality. The average growth of the American population, which is around about 317 million at the moment, is right about 1% as a constant.
Right.
So if we talk about 1% on 316 million, that's 3.1 million new people per year. The average household is 1.8 to 2.2 members per every household.
Right.
Therefore, we're going to need, if it's 3 million a year, roughly 1 million new houses a year. We have not built anything close to that in the last 5 years. So we are so far behind the 8 ball in terms of supply for a restricted demand. And, the joke about the kid living in the basement, graduating from college and returning to live in mom's basement, that is a household or a member of a household that has been retarded during the recession. There was a comment on Fox News today. They were interviewing young families or husbands and wives and asking them about, having a family. And every one of them that was interviewed, and obviously that's selective, was saying, no, we've delayed any notion of having children until the economy, creates some sort of security or predictability, which means we've got a huge boom coming up over the next 3 to 5 years as the economy begins to heal.
Okay, so if an investor is listening to this program right now, so you're encouraging them and basically to be optimistic for the next 2 to 3 years or 5 years. Is that what it is? I mean, I wanted to ask you, yes?
Paul, I'm encouraging them to be optimistic for their lifetime.
Right. Okay. Okay. Cool. Depending on what they do, right? Yeah. So.
No. Not depending on. Be optimistic. Period, and you will be amazed how much you attract.
That's interesting. So you mentioned one key point there: 3.1 million people. That America generates every year, if that's the right term to use.
That's just birth rate. That's not immigrants or any of that other stuff. That's just birth rate.
Exactly. So is that one of the reasons why we have prices skyrocketing right now, or is this another bubble? I was going to ask you that question.
No, I don't believe it's a bubble because the pent-up demand would absorb any bubble very quickly.
So, Andrew, you've been doing real estate for the past 25 years, you said. So, I mean, you've seen different cycles and stuff. What's happening right now? And I know you said in the next 5 years, you can, you're very optimistic about the real estate market. So, but you see markets. I've only been here 12 years. You've seen markets go down and up and down and up. What is your prediction about this current market, and how long is this going to last? You're going to see a deluge. Everybody's going to come out of woodworks right now and start building houses again. I mean, like they did back in 2004, 2005.
Well, the answer is, we can't all collectively get together as a bunch of builders and say, okay, we've got to be careful this time because last time we overbuilt and, a lot of us went out of business. Your markets don't work like that. I mean, I go out, I decide to start a home building business, and you go out and decide to start a home building business. Typically, there's no coordination. We all just go balls to the wall and start building houses like crazy. And of course, we can overbuild and we can, outstrip the market. But we've been underperforming for the last 4 to 5 years so badly because of the economy that and population hasn't slowed down. I would expect not only for us to have to catch up with the existing demand, but also when this pent up demand, these children come out of the basement or these families suddenly start wanting their own home, that will start occurring. Now, people have, the statement keeps getting made about, the future of America being a rental America. That is so much nonsense. It is ridiculous for 2 reasons. First of all, the American dream, and it's a dream worldwide, is to own your own home and be, get the landlord or the banker out of your life, right? That's a worldwide dream, and it's a consistent dream. Now, you know, what you hear from a lot of these people that are pushing these residential funds and so forth is a big shift of Americans into rental. Well, no, what it is the readjustment from an oversold residential market for homeowners of about 69% during the height of the boom to a natural number of about 64 to 65% home ownership to rental ratio. Now, and then people go, well, you know, that's pretty low. No, it's typical, and it's not only typical of the U.S. In any of the modern Western societies, and by modern I say modern financial models, where you know you can borrow money on a house and you can pay it back in a reasonable way. What you find in Britain, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the U.S., you find that the home ownership ratio hovers at a constant 64, 65% to rent. And that's, the world over, good, bad, or indifferent. It just pops up a little bit when, money's free, and it drops back as economies readjust. And it's always done this. It's like, global warming. Guess what? It's got nothing to do with people. It's all about natural cycles.
So, Andrew, I still want you to talk a little bit about this because you have been through a lot of cycles, right? And now what I see, is basically
the one that I'm most aware of, although as a publisher, and that's where the numbers start to come into play, is this last 10 years since we've been publishing this magazine. But what I've discovered is when you take that data and those numbers and you go look back at history, you find the profiles. The rate of increase of the bell curve, the length of the peak of the bell curve, and the drop or the recessionary side of the bell curve are very constant. They are not, this is not unexpected behavior. It's relatively predictable.
Okay, so that's good. So, Andrew, just this week I received an email, and they urged me to watch a video, and they were talking about the Great Default. And I just wanted you to very quickly talk about this. The Great Default, they talk about America. Of course, it's very likely going to, it lost its credit rating somehow, and the deficit is not reducing. And so this video, this guy urging me to buy whatever his material, talk about the future calamity that's awaiting America. What's your take on that?
Well, the answer is, you can't outspend your income without having some consequences. You can defy gravity for so long. Look at the Japanese miracle. What we find is that the Japanese miracle was created by little to no interest rates and government loans that encouraged development, and at the end of the day, there was a reality they had to deal with when they ran out of money. The Maggie Thatcher statement, socialism's a great idea until you run out of other people's money. Well, China is beginning to run into the same problem because what they've discovered is that they can move the subsidization of businesses from the government to private banks and so forth, but the private banks are running out of money, and the private banks have been depending on a high savings rate in China to fund these low interest and no interest loans that aren't even being repaid back by so many of these companies because they defaulted on their government loans, and the government rolled them into the Bank of China, which is a state-owned bank. The state-owned bank rolled it into all these subsidiary banks, and guess what? All they're doing is deferring the inevitable. Now, there's a little bit of a joke here, which unfortunately, we're doing the same thing, but we are the least dirty shirt in the laundry basket.
Andrew, unfortunately, we're running out of time here. My producer just told me, at the end of the show, it's been a pleasure talking to you today. And where do people find this knowledge? Andrew, can you give them your website?
Yes, www.personalrealestateinvestormag.com. But the reality is, well-bought real estate on fundamentals. Don't try and push the envelope or borrow too much money. Make sure you've got market rents. is always good and is always inflation protected.
Thank you so much, Andrew. I really appreciate that. And everyone, thank you for joining the show today. If you missed it, you can always listen to the show by going to voiceamerica.com and looking for Paula Joy or Wealth Solutions for the 99%. Starting next week, actually next week, I'm going to have a panel of real estate lenders, private money lenders. People think you need money to make money. I say, no, you don't. So next week, we're going to have a panel of private money lenders. This has been Paula Joy, your real estate consultant for life. If you want to find out more information about this show, about me, go to LaJoySolutions.com, LaJoySolutions.com. It's been Paula Joy. Have a great weekend, and we talk to you next week. Andrew, thank you again.
Well, Paul, thank you. It's always great doing business with you.
Bye-bye now, everyone.
Thank you again for listening to Wealth Solutions for the 99%. Please join Paul LaJoy again next Saturday at 10 a.m. Pacific Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Voice America Business as we continue to help you build your personal wealth.
Thanks again for listening to the preceding program, brought to you on the Voice America Business Channel. For more information about our network and to check out additional show hosts and topics of interest, please visit voiceamericabusiness.com. The Voice America Talk Radio Network is the worldwide leader in live Internet talk radio. Visit voiceamerica.com. The views and ideas expressed on the preceding program are strictly those of the host or guests and do not necessarily reflect the views and ideas held by the Voice America